at the Texas Economic Development and Tourism, Office of the Governor, delivering a keynote address. Larry leads business recruitment, small business, and community development efforts for the Texas Economic Development and Tourism Division. With over 30 years of experience in state economic development, including key roles at the Texas Department of Agriculture and Nations Bank, he has helped bring over 140,000 jobs and $63 billion in investment to Texas. He holds a BBA in finance from UT El Paso and is a graduate of the Economic Development Institute. Please join me in welcoming Larry McManus.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to get to visit with folks from the Rio Grande Valley. I'm originally from El Paso, Texas, and on behalf of Governor Abbott and Adriana Cruz, who couldn't be here, Adriana is been involved in the legislative session today. They're taking up the budget, which will fund us. So she's up there addressing that, and Adriana's from Laredo, so we've got the border covered all the way from El Paso to Brownsville. So, and by the way, I'll be talking, and I apologize, my throat is a little off. The oak pollen has gotten me, so I'll be taking sips of water throughout the presentation. But I'll talk a little bit about us, what we do in the Governor's Economic Development and Tourism Office, why companies are selecting Texas, and give you an update on our activities and what we're seeing. Excuse me. If you're familiar with our office, I know that we've met with several people in here over the years, worked with several people, a lot of familiar economic development folks, a lot of city and county representatives that we've engaged with. We appreciate the collaboration that we've had with you. Our role in the Governor's Economic Development Office is to basically market and promote the state of Texas and bring in new investment, new jobs into the state and market the state worldwide, really. These are the different divisions within the Governor's Economic Development. We have the Business and Community Development Team. That's what I oversee. I'll talk a little bit about them. That we're mostly engaged with our economic development organizations and our cities and counties on economic development activities. We have an economic development finance group. I'll talk a little bit about them because they house our financial programs, including the Enterprise Fund and the Enterprise Zone program. The new Texas CHIPS office, I'll talk a little bit about that. That's for the semiconductor industry. We work and helps promote that particular industry. The Texas Workforce Investment Council, Music Office, Film Office, and the Tourism Office. So all of these comprise of economic development. Just so that you know, in business and community development, I do have two members that are from the Rio Grande Valley. Fernanda Sanchez, who recently was working with you all, is part of our business recruitment team. And Philip Rocha is part of our existing industry team. Both of those teams work with companies who are looking to expand in the state of Texas. We work closely with our economic development organizations throughout the state, and we assist them potentially in finding sites, providing information on incentives, and connecting them with our economic development organizations at the local levels. We also have a small business team that manages small business events, and I think we have one coming up in FAR in the next month or so. So we look forward to being down there. Jarvis Brewer is our small business advocate. And then we have an economic research team, international trade, which also focuses on international foreign direct investment activity. And we have marketing and promotion activities that work closely with the Texas Economic Development Corporation, which is a sister agency that Aaron Demerson runs. So some of you are members of that. So together, we're all marketing the state of Texas. I tell people we cannot do economic development without our local community's involvement. You are very important to the process at the local level, at the regional level, and at the state level. And we do have regional offices. Some of you may have met Mallory McCoy. She is our regional representative in your area. If not, please make it a point to do so. She covers South Texas. She's got a large area. I'm going to show you a map here. It's pretty large. It goes from the San Antonio area down to the valley, but she is housed down in Edinburgh, and so she's available to you as needed. A little bit about our activities. Oops, I think I went too far here. I talked about our business recruitment activities. Later in the presentation, I'll kind of tell you about the number of projects that we're working, but we work closely with our utility allies and our economic development organizations. We don't see all projects that are looking at the state of Texas. As a matter of fact, I have a slide that showed that there are about 1,200 announcements in the state of Texas that occurred last year, and we probably were involved in about 45. So that means the remaining 1,100 and whatever, 900, I'm terrible at math today, the remaining number of those projects, you all are working in your communities. And so it's important that you guys are engaged with your economic development organizations, and you're working with your existing Texas companies as well. We do have an international and business team headed up by Shirley Temple. Yes, that is her name. She is the good chip lollipop, I like to call her. And she oversees our foreign direct investment activities and our export activities. We do work with the Texas Economic Development Corporation, that's Aaron Demerson's group, on missions. We do foreign missions, take the governor. We've taken them to Europe and Asia and India. And we do have a State of Texas, Mexico office. James Taylor runs the State of Texas, Mexico office. Those of you that have been engaged with him knows that he represents us down in Mexico. The main office is in Monterrey. We do have a Mexico City office. They kind of moved it when James came on board, and their company decided to make Monterrey the focus, but we do have a Mexico City office as well. And then we do have a Taiwan office. That is brand new from the last legislative session. So we'll see what happens in this coming legislative session. We have heard that there's interest in potentially putting more offices internationally, and we contract these offices out. So the individuals that work for us are contracted out, and they represent our office in all matters that are in those countries. Our existing industry team, Philip Rocha is an existing industry specialist. He's from McAllen, by the way. And he and his counterparts, Joe Magruder and Giselle Gorguson, they focus on existing Texas industries. There are experts in this area. And whenever we're working with a prospect that is in a particular industry, we'll engage them. But we'll also engage them for companies that you are working at the local level that are existing Texas companies, your BRE program. I always tell communities that the BRE program is probably your most important program because you want to know what your companies are doing. You want to make sure that you're addressing their needs and you're not surprised. You don't want to be in a position where they're telling you, yeah, we're moving to another community or we're moving to another state because you didn't go visit or you didn't go interact with them. So BRE is very important, business retention expansion, and we are very focused on that. Also in our existing industry sectors, we have the Office of Aerospace and Aviation. Joe Magruder heads that up, and the Broadband Development Council, which Phil is heading up as well. Here's that map I was talking about. We have 5 regional representatives that cover the state. They are in the regions. They office out of their cars, really, because they're traveling all over the place. But you can see Mallory's territory, but most of her time is in the Rio Grande Valley, so take advantage of her being down there. And then I talked a little bit about the Economic Development Finance Group. That's the incentive and financial programs that we work. The Texas Enterprise Fund, our deal closing fund when we're competing with other states enterprise zone program, sales tax reimbursement program, the Governor's University Research Initiative for attracting researchers to state universities, and then a program that a lot of communities have used is the Events Trust Fund, which includes the Major Events Reimbursement Program. This allows communities to attract events, and based on the economic impact, can be reimbursed from the sales tax from that economic impact. So if there's an interest, you're trying to attract an event, it could be a conference tournament, it could be a horse show, it could be a trade show that is looking to move around. You can use that particular program to get a reimbursement of some sales tax dollars that come from the economic impact of that particular event to help lower the costs or incentivize the event. The CHIPS office was our newest office in the economic development and tourism. It does have an international component. You do have to have a Texas base of some sort, like a sales office or something, but a lot of international companies are tied to the semiconductor industry. And in the last legislative session, about $700 million was made available for grants for those companies in that industry to help grow that industry. It's a matter of national defense and security, of course, and that's part of the reason. There's also a consortium that was funded out of that legislative session, and it involves a lot of the universities, including the University of Texas system schools that are part of that as well, and the A&M schools as well. And it is all designed to grow the industry and keep us ahead in the semiconductor industry component. So why are these companies picking Texas? You know, we're engaging consultants, we're engaging companies, we're engaging companies, clients or suppliers, partly because we're very fortunate to be where we're at. We have a very pro-business environment that starts with our local communities, and that goes on up with your leadership, your state leadership, and our state leadership as a whole. You know, we like to stress how big our state is, how, 8th largest if we were our own country. I always say there's people who would like us to be our own country, but number 8, we're ahead of Russia, Canada, Italy, and Brazil. Number 1 in foreign trade zone economic impact. Number 1 exporter. We don't have an income tax. That's attractive. The property tax thing, that there's incentives out there. I'll talk a little bit about that and why companies look at incentives. And we were number 1 in the nation for jobs. We have almost 16 million people that are available in the workforce. That's a lot of people. Companies like that. Now, this was our 10-year growth rate compared to the United States, and we've been very fortunate in the last, in 2023, to have such a spike. Now, I don't know if we're going to have a spike this, in the last year or so, but we've trended to be higher in state growth or economic growth than the rest of the country. That's led to awards and accolades. By the way, I'm going to go through some of these because I know my time is limited and I have like about 100 slides, but I'll go quickly. No, I don't have 100. But anyway, we've been very fortunate to have to be named as a top state to do business, and a lot of that comes from what we were just talking about. We have 31 million people here in the state of Texas and growing, and we've continued to grow much higher than other states in the country. This is a 12-month period. I think it's from 2023, but this is showing you population movement within the United States to Texas, inbound net growth. And a lot, if you've met somebody from California, you're not dreaming. That's where most of the people have come from within the United States, but also from Florida. So it's been interesting to see the growth. Part of the reason we have the workforce we have is because people see opportunities. And people also have moved some of their business. This shows the population growth that I was talking about in the last year or so, or 10 years, I guess, since it's the census. And then we're very diverse. I don't know if you know this. Adriana likes to make mention of this, but we are in the most diverse city in the United States, Houston, Texas. So a lot of people are taken back by that. International companies don't know that. But we are here in Houston in the most diverse city in the United States. And Texas as a whole, that's the kind of the breakout as to the ethnic composition and how things are here in the state of Texas. But companies like the state of Texas, because of where we're located and how they can get their product in, how they can get their product out, and when they visit, we have infrastructure to bring them into the state of Texas. Luckily, we're centrally located. We have a coast that provides ports, airports, seaports. We have the freight and public roads that all lead to opportunities for business and our assets. And we're very fortunate as a state. A lot of the interactions that we've had with companies and consultants, the consultants have indicated to us that the state that they are always asking about is the state of Texas. So, and it's because we've been very fortunate to increase our assets and grow our assets here. Again, foreign direct investment, we're number one in that, and we have numerous international companies here in the state of Texas that make Texas their U.S. headquarters. So we are appreciative of that. And this kind of shows you that we're the top foreign direct investment destination in the United States. The darker the color, the more foreign direct investment. The lighter the color, the least amount of foreign direct investment. So you see it kind of centers where the population areas are, but we tend to be in the lead there on that. We talked a little bit about this. Our trading partners, of course, Mexico and Canada. We heard about the tariff situation. We don't know where that's going to lead us. We don't know what's going to happen. But we do know one thing. We do know that we have companies international companies that have already been on already considering potential expansion. Well, the tariffs have kind of led them to engage us quicker than maybe they were expecting. We recently talked to some site consultants at an event over the weekend. A lot of the site consultants have said that they're working with companies that have two strategies, a 3-year or less strategy and a 4-year and greater strategy. And it's because of the tariffs. It's because of what they're seeing. They don't like instability. Now, we as a state have been very fortunate. We've been very stable in our business environment. That's why we're seeing a lot of activity. And I think that's why we continue to see it even with this instability. The site consultants indicated that we were very fortunate as a state because other states throughout the country are seeing their projects kind of stall and slow down. We haven't seen that yet. And so a lot of that has to do with the leadership in our position, with taxes and with regulatory environment. Our regulatory environment is it's very favorable for a lot of those companies. It's led to us having 52 headquarters of the Fortune 500. So we're in the top states to have that. And then, of course, a lot of people don't know. I'm from El Paso. I didn't even know we had this in the state of Texas when I was growing up because we didn't come out here. We went to California. But a lot of people don't know that we have a lot of this, right? And so they're surprised when they come and visit. And it's you at the local levels who do a good job of entertaining and informing these companies as they are considering expansion or considering where it makes sense for them to potentially do business. I'll talk a little bit about this, incentives and financing. If we were in a utopian environment where it didn't matter for incentives, we wouldn't have to worry about it. However, there are 50 different tax structures for each state, right? And then countries have their own tax structures. But because the tax structures charge or levy taxes to companies, those are costs for those companies. And depending on what those costs are, they look at that in their evaluation in making decisions for their investment. And so when you're trying to mitigate those costs, that's when you start seeing incentives being introduced in the legislature, being passed in the legislature. I say it's like going and buying a vehicle or buying a car, right? Your dealers are trying to incentivize you to pick your car, and they throw incentives, down payment incentives, financing incentives, and you have to make a decision on what makes the most sense for you. Here in Texas, our community partners drive the process. The communities, there's 1,200 communities in this, well, actually more than 1,200 communities in the state of Texas. Each one is responsible for its own economic development, strategic planning and growth. Each one is responsible for its own incentives if they want to participate. There's about 800 economic development organizations and about, 500 that are very proactive in doing the recruitment. A lot of them are here, so things like this show the proactiveness of a community, of a region, and in using these types of programs. Some communities have different strategies, different industries that they're pursuing, will incentivize different types of industries. But this is just a list of what's out there. The local community mostly has property tax incentives, sales tax incentives, and then potentially some have taxed themselves to offer cash grants, right? So each community is different. Each community has different opportunities. At the state level, we're available to all 1,200 communities. We love every one of our communities the same. We love all our children, right? The programs that we have, Enterprise Fund is used. We won't use it to compete two Texas communities against each other. We tell the company and the consultant, you need to pick one community, and then we're competing with another state. The Semiconductor Innovation Fund, that's for those semiconductor industry programs. And we have other programs that are out there. Other state agencies like the Workforce Commission, I saw Commissioner Trevino, they have training dollars, and those dollars make a difference. And we're working with other state agencies. The comptroller manages the initial Texas Jobs, Energy, Technology, Innovation Act, JETI program. Adriana calls it the Jedi program. She's a Star Wars fan. The comptroller calls it JETI, but it replaced 313. It's the school district tax limitation. And comptroller gets involved and our office gets involved. So we're working with other state agencies to help identify and potentially use programs so that these companies can make decisions. I'm going to skip through here because I'm running short on time. The JETI program, though, that's where the school district participates. It's basically based on the 50% of the appraised value of the project that the M&O tax would be limited. So if there's questions on that, our team can help. That was put in the last legislative session, as was the CHIPS Act. So some business development updates for you, just so that you kind of know what we do and how we interact with the teams that I kind of explained. The total number of projects that we worked, that we counted towards measures was about 265. But if we're working, if there's 1,200 that are being located in any given year, obviously you at the local levels, you at the community levels, you with your strategic plan, you with your marketing efforts are actually working a lot more projects. And don't forget, your existing Texas businesses probably bring in quite a bit of those. I think there was a stat once that I saw that about 80% of your job creation is coming from your existing companies. And you may not even know that. 10 here, 20 here, 10 here, they're adding up. And so everybody's going after the big fish, but your existing existing companies are actually creating jobs. So keep that in mind when you're developing your strategy for economic development. 45 projects I announced. And then we have about 15 small business events that we do a year. Here's that 1,200 number. We had 24 headquarter relocations that we tracked. We submit this information to a industry magazine called Site Selection Magazine, and we do it for an award called the Governor's Cup. And so we've been fortunate to win that 13 times. We've won it so many times that they had to create a new category, a per capita category. We've been third, I think, or fourth. We're trying to get both of them so that they can have to create a new category after that. But right now, we've been 13 in a row. This gives you an idea of our prospect activity since COVID. We didn't know what was going to happen in COVID, but our leadership, state leadership, kept the state moving and identified and helped companies become essential companies so that we could keep moving the state forward. And our activity shot up. And a lot of that has to do with other states and their regulatory environments, other states closing down, companies reevaluating, should we even be in this state? Why are we even considering that? And seeing that the state of Texas did not go to extremes. It was able to keep the doors open, and it caused companies to start reaching out. And as you can tell, it just kind of, it really increased from that right before the pandemic into after the pandemic started, and we continued to move forward with quite a bit of activity. And those are on a quarter basis. Headquarters, half our headquarters relocations since 2015 have come from California. And it's, again, regulatory environment. It's the ability to do business in that particular state. There was an example of a company who was providing flavors for our sparkling waters in California. They wanted to expand their manufacturing plant, and it was going to take them 6 years. 6 years to get it fully functional and moving. And time is money for these companies. So they started looking, and they reached out to a community south of Austin, Kyle, Texas. Kyle, Texas worked with them. They found a piece of property, got them going, and within 6 months, they were up and running. They didn't need any incentives because the time value of money and the cost was so much that they saved so much money just moving their opening an operation in California. They liked the pro-business environment of Texas. They decided to move their headquarters. So they kept that operation manufacturing in California, but they moved the headquarters and opened a new operation in Texas because they were growing and they were serving the economy. This is a breakdown of our projects that we're seeing at least 50% or more manufacturing of some sort. We've got it broken out primarily by industry, so some of the industry stuff might have manufacturing in there, but you can kind of see how it is general manufacturing, advanced technology manufacturing, energy, and so forth, just kind of following in a clockwise direction. Some of the companies that we've worked with and assisted in announcing, a lot of very familiar companies on here. And over the last year, we were fortunate to get some federal funds to help us create an economic development strategic plan. And we introduced the economic development strategic plan last month, at the very beginning of last month. It's a 5-year plan. We contracted with Guidehouse. They helped us put the plan together. It was very macro. It's on our website, but it's available as a resource for you at the local levels. It is there for you to use as you develop your strategic plans. It's showing you what the state as a whole, what the strategy is from a macro standpoint. And We did it to help us as a state unify our vision. It was also to update the target industries that we had. Back in 2005, we had a cluster initiative, and we had about six or so, eight clusters, well, 6 clusters, I think, that were identified. We've updated that. I'm going to show you a list of that, and we included targeted sectors. So targeted sectors is the new cluster, I guess the new term for cluster, and then clusters is below the targeted sectors. I'll show you in a bit. But it created certain pillars for us to follow, and it's available to you as communities. The consulting firm went out to the Council of Governments, Economic Development Districts, got all their plans, brought those in, went out and got plans from different communities of different sizes and incorporated a lot of that. And what came out of this were these target sectors, advanced manufacturing. Within advanced manufacturing, you see aerospace, vehicles, aircraft and defense, automotive, computers, electronics, and semiconductor manufacturing, production technology, and heavy machinery. Energy evolution, energy above and below the ground, right? Electric power generation, transmission, oil and gas extraction, production and transportation, renewables. These are all important for us as we consider marketing our initiatives and engaging with companies and focusing our incentives in programs, right? Food and livestock, that's kind of new. We didn't have that before, right? Agriculture, the Texas Department of Agriculture did some of that. We'll work with them. But food processing and livestock processing are important to a lot of parts of the state. The hospitality, tourism, and culture industry, we have film, music, tourism. That's important as well for communities. Some communities focus on that. Information technology, AI, artificial intelligence, important life sciences and biotechnology, broken out even further between pharmaceutical, biotechnology, and medical devices, and agriculture, science, and technology. And then petroleum and refining always, and chemicals will always be important to us here in the state of Texas. Professional services and corporate offices, so those are the headquarters and the back office operations that have professionals involved with them. And then new rare earth mining and materials. That's where semiconductor industry, that's where a lot of these things, we are a geographically rich state for a lot of rare earth materials. So this is a new industry that's important to the future of the state of Texas. And transportation and logistics are I'll just put it back on that, are key to our state. So using all those things, we will work with our Texas Economic Development Corporation, our sister agency. We'll work with you at the local levels to help market the state in whatever way makes most sense for us. We have a decentralized approach towards economic development. I always tell people who are unfamiliar with that, it's because we were a nation once before, and it was established like the United States, right? They empowered the counties and the communities and the cities to grow their economic growth, their government growth, and we at the state level tend to be resource providers, information gatherers, and help produce meeting-to-meeting opportunities for communities and economic development organizations. So that is a quick, I've got another hour if you all want to stay, but that is a quick overview of kind of what's going on in our office. And I'm happy to take some questions. I will not be able to answer any legislative questions because I have no clue where we are with that stuff at the moment. I know that there are a lot of activities, a lot of incentives being looked at. I know that the JETI program has some issues with wages because companies have indicated that the wage requirement might be too high. I know that there are some bills filed to help alleviate that. But right now, we're too early in the legislative session to even know where those things will go. But I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I only have about 1 minute and 10 seconds as I look at my clock available, but happy to answer anything that you might have. Yes, sir.
Yes, great information. Given the trends, the clusters, in your opinion right now, which is the fastest growing market taking place in Texas in these clusters of the 10 of them? And number two, given the global terrorist situation right now, where do you see better opportunity for us to be able to recruit companies coming into Texas, given especially the global terrorist situation?
Yeah, so the question is which industry is probably the hottest, right? And what we see the most active, and then given the tariffs, where should you all focus on? Just based on some conversations recently and what our activity is, definitely the semiconductor industry has been the hottest for us. Partly, a lot of times when the federal government issues grants or puts money out there, all of a sudden there's this cluster of activity that we see in those industries. And so that cluster tends to be the hottest. But we've been very fortunate in all our industries in manufacturing. Sometimes it depends on what the administration is in place that makes a difference. But semiconductors still continue to be important. Advanced technology of any type is active. Based on tariffs and the conversations that we're having, I think if you have interactions with international companies that were considering your area, especially Mexican companies, I think now is a good time to engage with them because we had a conversation with, and this is the first time this has ever happened, the S&P index, market index, some of their not their traders, but their investment analysts reached out to our office because they were representing the Latin America area, but they had several Mexican companies who didn't know what to do. They were concerned about the tariffs, and they were like, we need to find where we need to do this investment. And this tariffs situation is giving us concern. The S&P guys are like, well, we'd like to introduce them to you. And we're like, yeah, you bet. We want to engage with them. But the three companies were in Mexico, and one elected to meet with us. Another one was going to evaluate and reach out at some point. And the third one decided not Texas, but is interested in the United States. So I think we've seen a lot of Canadian company interest too. So really our partners in the corridor between Canada and Mexico have a lot of activity that we're seeing. I think I'm done, right? So I appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you, and I'd be happy to visit with you if you have any questions. So thank you very much. I don't know who has it, but they can make it available to you if you want. Quick question.
And there's nothing said about it yet, which it is on the shipping industry. The ships that are from China. Most of the fleet is from China, especially on the big ships. So there's a lot of product that comes from overseas into Brownsville to go into Mexico. Yep. Is there any way that that the government can help us in Texas to not to pay for that tariff to come into Mexico, because it's most of that product is inbound?
Yeah, unfortunately for any tariff activity, we don't really have any programs to offset that at the state level, and I don't see anything being developed for that. So right now, it's going to be a federal issue. I will say that from a Chinese standpoint, there's a security concern as well for any projects that we're working that have Chinese ownership or controlling interests. So we wind up not getting involved in those type of projects. Yeah.
Okay, also for developing things in the Port of Brownsville, some of the major obstacles or time taking is to deal with the Corps of Engineers sometimes. As the government of Texas can help to reduce those times with the Corps of Engineers?
That's a good question. So the Texas Department of Transportation has a maritime office, and the maritime office is the one who works with the ports to help facilitate infrastructure and investment and so forth. So I wouldn't be a good person to talk to regarding that, but if you do have a question, I'll give you my card, and if you would like to email me, I can get it to an individual who could potentially answer that question for you, if that would